KIN223, Chapter 9, still on team dynamics and cohesion. Book presentation number 5, and this is talking a little bit more about creating an effective team climate. And I stress it all the time, I say it all the time, you have the ability to do this as a coach. You're the one that actually can control the tone and tempo of your organization or your team. And as a coach, you can create that team climate, you can change the team climate, and then you can drive that team climate. And what's important of this is, how the players perceive the relationship amongst themselves is part of it for sure, because that influences the climate, but also how your players perceive, as you saw, their role within the organization, that matters. And also, do they have an understanding of their role within the organization, whatever that may be. So, it all develops from how they have these relationships with one another and their perceptions and kind of evaluation of the team itself. But the coach really is the one who has the final say in how this all maps out. So the book focuses on social support being between two individuals. The authors seem to infer this is between teammates. I would say it can include numerous other people. And it's an exchange of resources between two individuals perceived by the provider or recipient to be intended to enhance the well-being of the recipient. Woof, that's a mouthful. But what that comes down to is you have this kind of symbiotic relationship between two or more people. And with that, you have a greater amount of cohesion, lower stress and anxiety, provides greater motivation for the athletes. And then, the supportive environment also helps to increase team cohesion and bonding through the interactions that they have with one another. And this is part of it in terms of being able to have a more positive effect on things like coping with stress, burnout, and performance. So now with this, you might be creative in terms of how you manipulate this. The proximity is in terms of how you have person A close to person B, and you get them to interact with each other. And, the interaction itself can help, hasten the group development and help increase team cohesion. But, as a coach, you may have to find a way to kind of manipulate this in a practice environment. And there's any number of different ways, whether it's, during 2-a-day practice, you have two people rooming together. You have people who partner up in drills all the time, whatever that may be. But you find ways to get these interactions to kind of tease the best out of each other. Now, teams have their own distinctiveness. There's no doubt about it. And it kind of evolves during a season like we talked about. And they have their own distinctiveness that's built initially just by simple fact of being a lion, a tiger, or a bear, right? If you think about some of the sports teams that we are familiar with and acquaint ourselves with. But, each iteration of a team, the 2024 team will have a little different vibe than a 25 team and the 26 team. And it's going to be based upon the coach. It's going to be based upon who the heck is playing, how well they do during the season, those types of things. And whether it's something as simple as a quirky handshake, high five, how they do their touchdown celebration, those are little like cultural components that each team has and each iteration of a team has that distinguishes and differentiates themselves from other teams, whether it's within the league or other teams within their organization over the years, about having their own distinct traits. Fairness has its challenges in being able to execute, right? Because like we talked about, sometimes the best player isn't always the one that's playing or starting, because the best player on the team sometimes doesn't fit well with the other players who are starting on the team. But there are going to be times where you have times where the athletes are thinking the coach is playing favorites, or he's not working in the best interest of me as the athlete. But at the end of the day, the coach is trying to win games and have everybody have a positive experience, not just you at linebacker. And I would contest that in some regards, yes, the coach might be playing favorites. Favorites in terms who meshes better with other people on the field. Favorites in terms who might not be so cancerous in terms of their leadership capabilities. Maybe that person is a leader, if you will, on the field, and they're able to be very supportive to others on the field, though they're not a team captain, right? So yeah, sure, the coach might be playing favorites because he's the one that has to put the puzzle pieces together to put together the winning team, not so much as have you have a starting position. And the idea that you have different shifts, like in hockey. Guys hop over the rail, they're on the ice. Two guys jump off, two guys hop on. Those are shift changes. And within those shift changes, you'll hear the announcers talk. Well, this person has a better shot percentage when they're paired with this person on the ice versus the other person on the ice. And so this is advantageous. Those are all considerations that you make as a coach. And sometimes what is in fairness to the team might not be in fairness to the individual on that team. And that's just the inherent nature of being in a group environment, like a team environment like sports. So let's go back to one of our other presentations, and a coach can utilize extrinsic motivators to help drive an intrinsic motivation response. And though it's not really described in the book as such, each team is kind of an organic structure comprised of like different personalities, and those personalities kind of turn over every year depending who comes back, who graduates, who's new into the program. And each athlete is driving towards the same extrinsic goal. Then in theory, so is the entire structure moving towards the same goal. But like we talked about in a previous example or previous presentation, different individuals have different drivers, and as a result, you as a coach have to be able to understand where that person fits in on the bus as you're all driving towards your team goal. And there's going to be some differences, and the book notes some of them, like ethnicity, race, socioeconomic background, personality, and ability. But as a coach, your job is to be able to figure out who fits best where to be able to have this team vision. And I will tell you, you're never going to have everybody be like homogenous, the same on your team. So now it becomes, how do you have them all buy into the same vision? How do you have them all buy into the same overarching goal? How do you have them buy into the same process? That's where your similarity comes, and that becomes extrinsic motivators to help them intrinsically become very similar. So a task interdependence, we're all in this together. We win as a team, we lose as a team. And this is more of a, if you think of it, it's kind of an outcome dependent evaluation, as opposed to something where you're talking about process and you're focusing on outcome. When you say like we win as a team, we lose as a team. When you say we're all in this together, that kind of takes away that outcome oriented process, and you make it outcome oriented view, and you want to make it more process oriented. And so you kind of look at that and go, all right, how do you have task interdependence? How do you provide this ability to have this interdependence where you're viewing outcome, you're trying to work on having a cohesive group working towards an outcome, but you have to have this kind of relationship building process to have all your athletes work together towards a bigger goal, and there'll be successes and there'll be failures. And so now you have to be able to figure out the tumblers, if you will, to be able to put them all in the right place to make that happen. So I would say when you look at task interdependence, you're kind of looking at it through outcome. And as a result, it's going to be extrinsic. So now as a coach, you have to be able to now articulate what that extrinsic goal is to be able to help your athletes make it more intrinsic. And in the process of winning and losing towards that common goal, it becomes how do you heighten that interdependence, not only with the team and the goal, but the interdependence amongst your teammates as you work towards that goal. All right, breaking off from here, going on to the next one.